Today we're going to continue going down the rabbit hole of the phone calls between Stephan Sterns and his parents, and they get even more jaw-dropping, so buckle up. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Psh, there's still a chair back there. Psh, it ain't no sofa. Psh, this is Paul, and my name is still Paul if you are not new to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, well, guess what? My name's Paul. I hope everybody's doing well today. Now, y'all, this is like the second half of the phone calls, okay? And what I'm talking about is the phone calls between Stephan Sterns and his parents. Now, if you have followed this case, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'll give you a 60-second quick overview. Stephan Sterns is currently incarcerated. At the time of this recording, he is facing charges, very severe charges. Some of them are unaliving Madeline Soto. She had just turned 13. She was the daughter of his kind of on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jennifer Soto. Also, when this all came about, they found this out. They found tons of evidence on Stephan's phone of him doing things to Madeline for years, okay? Oftentimes, she looked like she was apparently sleeping on these, in these videos and these evidence. She went missing, didn't come home from school. The case blows up, you know, he's on the news. Oh gosh, what happened to her? Well, Stephan happened to her, okay? That's the quick overview. This video is not meant to be a deep dive into the who's who of the case. This is supposed to be more of a deep dive into the phone calls. Speaking of the phone calls from prison, the YouTube channel, I'll put their page up here, link down below. You can see it on the screen as we listen to the phone calls. They have given me permission to, you know, react to their phone calls that they get. If you haven't been to their channel, y'all immediately rush, okay? They have so many amazing phone calls on there, and I'm very grateful for them, so be sure to check them out, give them a follow. You'll literally be on a deep dive for days on their channel, okay? So thank you very much to phone calls from prison. Now, that being said, what we're going to do is we're just going to jump back in. If you haven't seen my first part, there's that. And again, if you want to hear the unadulterated version, we'll just, you know, go to their channel or whatever. I'm going to be making commentary. I'm going to be stopping, that kind of a thing. I have just gone through the 3-hour phone calls and picked out the parts I want to talk about, but there were so many of them, I've broken it down into 2 videos. So there's that. Let's go ahead and get back to that first clip.
It's tainted. The whole thing is tainted now.
Yeah, they might have to shop it out to a different venue, but even at that point, I think it's going to be hard to find anyone who hasn't heard about all this.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, and the minute they do hear about it, they're going to go in, and even though they're not supposed to, they're going to go in and check the internet, and they're going to see these things, they're going to believe this stuff, because they don't know the difference between truth and non-truth.
Fact and fiction.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, you know, if I go in and say, you know, you people are idiots. You know this never happened, and I can't do that because it won't do you good.
Other than being his mother, though, how do you know, right? And again, if you listen to my first video, I talk about this, and we'll get deeper into it in this video, you know, of the psychological aspect of, you know, you're a parent, your child does something horrendous, like on this level, okay? How do you deal with that? What do you do? How do you mentally make it through? Do you deny? And at the end of the day, it's still your kid, right? And I find that part tragic and also psychologically interesting in true crime. And it's very apparent in here, you know. I'll be very curious to see what the parents say once trial starts, once a lot of this evidence comes out. Because again, Stephan is able to, with this, be like, oh, I can't go into details. We can't talk on the phone. And this is very true, right? I'm not trying to outgive him that. It's not a good idea for him to talk on the phone. It's not a good idea for him to go into details. You know, now, her sitting here being like, well, the jury and whatnot, here's a couple of things. Yes, a lot of people are going to have heard of this, but there's 2 versions of this. We talk about this in many cases. You know, there's the version of people with true crime that are like us, where we follow the cases like literally day by day as they unfold. Then there's like what I call the second level, where somebody will watch a docuseries and then they might go from there and look into it, but more or less they're just like watching a documentary on it, and that's their entry into it. And then some people that do it all, right? I mean, I kind of do all of it. So what I'm getting at is, even though it does appear like, oh my God, everyone's heard of this, not to the extent that they're thinking. Now, does she have a point here? Yeah. You go do jury selection. I'm not 100% sure how it works. Yeah, technically you're not supposed to go look that stuff up, and you really shouldn't do that. And yes, if they did go look it up, they would see a bunch of crazy stuff. Unfortunately, you're going to find that anywhere. Okay, anywhere you go, you're gonna find that, right? So it is what it is, and it very well could end up being like you have to sequester the jury. I mean, I don't know. Let's keep going.
Well, you gotta trusting. You gotta maintain your sanity. You gotta maintain your cool. And like Xavier told me, when he was in jail, the only thing that saved him was trying to keep a sense of humor about the situation, even though it was terrible.
I don't have much of a sense of humor anymore, to be honest. A very large part of me died when she did.
Well,
I'm not the same person anymore, and I don't think I ever will be. There's some wounds that just don't ever heal.
well, I'm assuming that they are treating you for PTSD because you found the body, not to mention everything else that went along with that.
No, not treating me for anything except my blood pressure.
Well, they need to do the PTSD because you're not sleeping.
Okay, so if this is the first time you're coming into this, you didn't watch my first video or hear this, yes, Stefan is going with the whole thing of he did not kill her, okay? That's what he's sticking with, whatever. He came in and found the body. Now you hear him now. Also, it's in the first video, I'll say it here too. This is getting into where I feel like the way he comes at this is the way somebody talks about a romantic partner that they lost. I am not in any way insinuating that she was a willing romantic partner, but I feel like in his world, there was some level of that going on, you know, because he'll just talk about her in this way that I'm like, this doesn't, like, there's a red flag in there, okay? Now, him like, you know, I don't have any humor and I don't, you know, do this, you know, since she died. It's like he's, with his parents at least, removed himself from accountability and responsibility for at least the unaliving of her, okay? And then he's almost like trying to pivot himself to like, not a victim, but like, and I don't even know if martyr is the right word, but almost like, well, I'm hurt too, you know? I lost somebody. That type thing. And it's like, okay, now one of the things that he makes mention of, and I think it'll be in this video in one of the clips, is essentially like this alluding to, well, maybe she got into drugs in the house, you know, or something like that. I feel like he's gonna go with like a she OD'd on her own, maybe. I don't know. I could completely be wrong. And now before we get further, I forgot to say this. You know, these are just my opinions on this very, you know, public information here. Ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no cop, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff. Okay. Only credentials of mine are the sofa or the chair and my size, okay? I'm just making up opinions and whatnot of this kind of stuff, so do your own research, come to your own opinions. So again, like when I say this stuff, it's just what it makes me feel. I don't have like fancy credentials or nothing, okay, to like back that up. So they're just my opinions, and I could completely be wrong, and I'll own that if I am. Let's keep going.
You know, I used to remember she would have such a mischievous little evil smile on her face when I made a fresh bowl of ramen, and she'd try a bite and then steal the rest of the bowl and walk away while staring evil looks and smiles at me. I miss that.
Well, she was a very special child, and I wish this had not happened that way, and I wish a lot of things had not happened the way they happened, and you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, me too.
So I don't understand that. I don't think there's ever anything that anybody could say to me that would make me understand that. So I'm not even going to go further than that into it, but just know that I don't care what you did. There is nothing that would make me hate you. There's nothing that would make me turn my back on you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, sweetheart.
It's giving Brian Laundrie's mom vibes, right? Okay. Couple of things in this. Notice how the parents and him, they'll always talk, it's almost like two things they talk about. The unaliving of Madeline, the stuff on the camera. We'll just call it that. The images on the camera, okay? The essay. To me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, right? The vibe that I get from her in this part is that she's basically saying like, I don't think that you did this thing over here, the unaliving, but I don't understand this. Because again, you can't really deny the images on the thing unless you're going to go the route of that's AI or something, right? But it's like, you're going to have to work with it in the realm of like, I'm trying to, you know, come up with an excuse for this, okay? So the mom's sounding like she's like, I don't understand that, I never will, there's no excuse for that, you know, but I don't think that you did this over here, okay? So it's almost like well, at least you're not this. Now, most people are going to kind of hold these two things of the things that he has done on camera, the images, that kind of evidence, right in line with killing somebody, right? It's almost like, I mean, this is two of the worst things, you know, out there, right? And so he's like trying to hold on to that, but also, again, almost that victimhood. Now let's go back to the beginning where he was talking about the mischievous little smile and the ramen noodles. That's what I'm talking about. The way that and specifically this clip, the way he's talking about that, and again, in my opinion, not a therapist, there is just, I am getting a string of like talking about my lover who passed vibe, right? Something feels very off about the way he's describing that. Almost like I can see him like this, like imagine her like, yeah, that mischievous little smile. Like that way that you think of, like think back to if you've been in a relationship or are in a new one, like those, the heady feelings that you're like, I like the way they do fill in the blank. That's what this is giving. And it immediately when you do it, it just feels like spiders crawling all over me. It feels like fire ants in my veins. My body literally rejects it. Every ounce of me goes, ugh, with that. I'll be curious to see if they use clips like this for evidence. You know, like when they're talking about it, because it feels so off. Okay, let's keep going.
You know, just going up for visits and bringing new snacks or new treats for her to try, or showing her new video games or card games and things like that. You know, just I miss that.
Oh, here, that's the 1 minute notice.
Yeah, there it is again.
You know, another thing too that I feel like, and I saw somebody talking about this, like at a TikTok, and just work with me here. Essentially, this person was saying something to the degree of like, with a cheating spouse, if your cheating spouse is like coming home, like you don't know they're cheating, but like they're coming home talking about like so-and-so at work, like, and they go on and on about this person, and they're like, it's because the person's on their mind, but they can't talk about them in the way they want to, so they will sit here and complain about said person instead, right? This is giving that vibe where he's like wanting to talk about it, because I think in his demented world, even though he took her, well, it's alleged, right? We haven't gone to trial yet. Even though he allegedly took her life, it's like he's acting like he didn't. He found her dead, and that it's feeling like in his demented world, it's a loss of a relationship. Almost like it's giving my fiance. Here's a perfect example. Remember the couple, I can't think of the name right now, that were coming home, and Jamie Komorowski, Samantha was her name, I can't remember the victim. Jamie Komorowski ran into their golf cart, killed the bride, and then the fiance wakes up and is basically like, hey, it's your wedding night and your wife's dead, okay? That kind of loss, the way you'll be like, God, I miss the way that she, you know, tied her shoes before we went out running. This is what that feels like to me, and it is horrifying. Okay. And I feel like the parents get that vibe too, because you notice that they'll kind of be quiet. Like, well, yeah, she was a special child. Like, it's giving these real creepy vibes. Okay. Again, just my opinion. Just my opinion. Let's keep going.
If you had chosen that path, because there's obviously nothing, we could have done, without, well, there's nothing we could have done. I mean, there was only one choice, but you know, we could have talked our way through this. I mean, the phone call that you made to me earlier in the afternoon, if you had at least shared that, you know, we could have talked our way through that and figured out a much better solution than whatever whatever you guys came up with, because none of that was believable. And I was thinking earlier today or yesterday that somehow I feel that you were forced into this, and I don't know, and that's just my speculation, that you were compromised and you were forced to participate in this, and you know, as soon as you gotten away from the rest of them, you should have called me, and we should have and could have discussed this, and the outcome would have been a lot different than what it is right now.
Okay, completely pause for a second. This is the thought that just went through my mind. Sofa speculation, not a fact. Just me literally having that, just thinking this. Okay, so you heard the dad said, like, I think you were compromised when you got away from them. Also, and I don't think we've come up to it yet, but what Stefan talks about, like, you know, well, maybe she got into drugs or whatever. What if he's trying to say, or at this point in time, yes, she got into drugs and everybody freaked out, you know, because like, oh my God, you know, the kid's dead, you know, we're going to have to get rid of her. And I was basically made to go do it. And everybody's turning on me, right? It's just a sad, tragic coincidence that on the side, I was also doing all the stuff you saw on the camera. You know what I'm saying? Or on the phone, right? Because that's where it's just like, dude, really? Because you heard right here, I mean, that's what it sounds like. Like, he's told them something, like, whatever. Now, granted, in a second, maybe in the next clip, we're going to see that Stefan shockingly kind of shoot down conspiracy theories. Then you have to ask yourself, well, why would you do that? I mean, obviously, I think he did this all on his own, right? I mean, it's the reason why. But it's interesting just how he works this, because it's like, what is your motivation, Stefan? Are you just saying things, then when more evidence comes out, you have to change the story? Because that's usually how it goes. I don't know. Let's keep going.
I don't want to get your hopes up, and as I said, don't get carried away with any conspiracy theories, but in a way I was compromised, and, you know, when all that stuff was happening, I was not in my right mind anymore.
Okay, now he'll say this several times about having a mental breakdown, this and that, when all that stuff was happening. So for me, I'm like, is he saying, is all that stuff times past when he was doing things on the, I'm going to refer to all the SA stuff as on the camera, on the phone, okay? So we don't have to like say the words and stuff like that. Is he talking about that, or is he talking about the event of the evening where he allegedly came in and found her deceased and cold to the touch? That thing, because again, they very much speak in two events at many times, so a lot of it I'm like, okay, which were we talking about? Because to me, it all blends together. I think it was a train wreck escalating. He's doing all this stuff to her, and whatever happened on this evening, motivation-wise, something took place that she had to go. Now, that could be he gave her too many drugs and she OD'd, but then there was that thing that was broken in her neck, so it's like, well, what was that? I've heard people speculate she could have been pregnant. I've heard people speculate that she could have woken up during the attack and said, I'm going to tell mom. She was coming of age. She's turning 13. She might have been like, get away from me. I also think that he's in a sense blaming Jen for almost creating a relationship between he and Madeline. His thought, right? I want to be very clear that in no way do I ever think Adeline was in a consensual relationship with this man. Okay, so when I say like he thought he was in a relationship, I'm not trying to insinuate that she did, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think in his demented world, or people like him, they think that that's why they do this gross stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because in their world, in a sense, they are, I guess.
It wasn't like she was catatonic. She was talking in a normal voice, you know. The only thing that showed any emotion at all was jiggling her leg, but she did that anyway. So yeah, she was anxious because she was lying through her teeth. That's okay.
Don't get your hopes up for any conspiracy theories or vast conspiracies. Just understand that anything I did was not done while being within my rational mind. I had snapped at that point.
Okay, she's talking about Jen, the mom. In the police interview, if you watched, you know, where Jen's like, I don't know, I miss her. I mean, it's so odd, like, so red flag, right? This is what I'm talking about, where someone's like, don't get your hopes up on some big conspiracy, don't do this. I think he knows you would have to, in your heart, what happened, and then the evidence will show this. And so that all these things that his mom's doing and saying, where he's going to try and pull Jen into this and pull this and is going to fall flat. Now, that is shy of the accountability that she either, I don't know her personally, right? But from what we've seen from our vantage point, the whole dynamic of her having Madeline sleep in the bed with this man, this is like apparently normal, is diabolic to me. Number one, it's insane for the very reason why we're here, right? This is not something that people do. Who on earth would be okay dating someone like this who was okay doing that, even though he'll play it off like, well, I didn't want to do that, but you didn't. No, right? Is it almost used as a test, right? To be like, what kind of sicko is this dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, literally, because like this shouldn't even be the first time that came up. That should have been, like, to a regular person, a red flag of, like, why is she trying to bring the daughter in the bed with us like this? In this particular circumstance, you know what I'm saying? And then all the way down to, like, she's sending the daughter up here to sleep with me in the bed? Absolutely not. Are you crazy? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you crazy? Like, immediately, like, absolutely not, right? The relationship wouldn't even made it this far, okay? Like, even, like, pretend that he wasn't the sicko. Like, he was just, like, regular and saw that he was dating this chick that was, like, gonna push her daughter off on him. Are you, bye. CPS, come over, please. okay, clearly we know that this isn't what was going on, right? There were so many different layers of trauma and just bizarre behavior going on from Jen and this freak, Stefan. Let's keep going.
I wish I had done the correct thing to begin with. You know, I wish I had run downstairs and shaken her awake and called 911 and all that. And deserved the
Well, I wish you had too. I wish you had too. Maybe she could have been saved, but
she was beyond that.
Okay.
You know, when someone's that ice cold and just gone.
She was in a different part of the house?
Yeah.
So this part right here where it's like, yeah, that's the obvious thing. If you allegedly haven't done anything wrong, whatever, you're meandering around the house and you go into the room and your boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever's child is dead, cold to the touch. Why in God's name wouldn't you do anything else besides wake the person up and call 911? He, on the other hand, decides to put the body in the car and pretend to take her to school, dispose of her things and the body, and then come get on TV talking about, oh my God, where is she? No. We ain't buying it. How? And I'll put, bias aside. I understand that the parents are like, this is my son. Nobody wants to be like, oh my God, my kid did this. But just that alone, how do you look past that piece of evidence? How? Right? Like, major mental gymnastics.
She wasn't with you?
Well, she had gone to be with me earlier in the night, but I'd left her alone for quite a while I was sort of just walking around and, haunting around the house like I do. Sometimes I go out for walks at night, or I'll just sit on the couch and just fiddle around on my phone, or just, I don't sleep well at night, especially when I've got to be up early and do something the next day.
Yeah.
And that was the case. So by the time I realized anything was wrong, it was.
She was in a different part of the house when you found that out.
She was still upstairs.
Oh, she was upstairs. Okay.
Yeah, I left her alone there.
Oh, okay.
I'd gone downstairs for a while, and until I realized anything was wrong, it was just far too late. She'd been gone for a while.
I don't think the dad sounds like he believes them. Where he's like, Other times I'm like, interesting. So, Stefan's basically saying he leaves her in the bedroom upstairs. He goes and haunts around the house for a couple of hours. He comes back up there. She's cold to the touch, deceased. So, and again, if nobody's around the house and, they have these roommates, these room rental situations going on, whatever. If no one's around there to prove that or say that, then he's like, yeah, well, I can sit here and say I was walking around and nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows this or that. But, you can surmise within what happened. Why is nobody else speaking up? Someone did something, right? You're the only one awake. Are we to believe that that's not true either? I don't know.
The crazies of the grandmom and already starting to call her a Gordo. She would have been the next one on the list for gastric bypass, but I just think, maybe God just delivered her out of a place that was going to become really bad for her.
I always knew that life was going to be hard for her. Her mom certainly didn't do her any favors, and since I had no say in the matter of how she was raised or disciplined or anything, there was nothing I could do about it but sit back and watch the train wreck as it unfolded.
Yeah, and she's trying to tell everybody that was a little angel and she had no problems with her, and you were already telling us that they were butting heads like two Rocky Mountain rams.
Yeah, they had gotten physical on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I figure they did that again.
Very interesting. Now, granted, I'm not trying to pick and choose truths and non-truths, but I think some of the stuff that he describes, like this scenario, the scenario between Madeline and Jen, the dynamic of the relationship, there's probably some truths here. I also just had this thought listening to it, and I was like, pretend that this event didn't happen, like she lived or whatever. Now, again, once we can get the full dynamic of exactly what was going on and like how that worked out, I think that there was going to be like, he was going to be the type to continue to do it, number one. You know what it almost makes me think of is the guy from Abducted in Plain Sight, where he just kept grooming her and grooming her and grooming her until he lost interest. Now remember, she's 13, so like she probably had a few more years to where he was going to maybe be like, okay, well, I've conquered, right? And then you've devastated this family, go on, because you hear the way he talks about Jen, where he's like, yeah, I mean, she was going to always have a hard life, and yeah, but Jen, you know, she was the parent, I didn't have a say, and you know, so I just had to go along with it. You know, that right there, I'm like, but look at where your actions led to, right? I'm not trying to say Jen's Mother of the Year, obviously not, but that's what I'm talking about, where you see these cases like this where these monsters get in and they know how to divide and separate and decimate the family, each in their own way. Clearly, Jen was very easy for him to come in, do this, get to the daughter, and here we are.
But okay.
You know, I often played mediator between the two of them because I was the only one that could talk either of them down when they started going at it with each other.
Yeah, I know.
Where were the roommates when all this is going on?
You know, upstairs, you know, doing their own things.
Was all that screaming and yelling and crap going on?
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's
kind of, honestly, it wasn't that far out of place in that house. You know, was often given to yelling or loud crying or outbursts, and was given to yelling and screaming and coming down on people.
He very much talks about her, meaning Jen, is like this very authoritarian, volatile. I mean, you heard what they're saying, right? And again, you hear the parents are asking the questions. Well, where were the roommates? And what about this? And what about that? And, you know, they're asking the right questions. And again, I just think that he, meaning Stefan, is essentially just making most of the stuff up, right? I think there's truths in there. I'm sure Jen was volatile. I'm sure many things took place. But you know, he's trying to account for an environment. I feel like at times listening to this, he's trying to make it out like some scenario in here kind of coerced him into doing what he was doing. And we're not even talking about the unaliving, but maybe before that.
Well, nothing to do about it now, but what I hate the worst is that she's sitting in a hospital having 3 meals a day, clean sheets, television, access to phone, reading, walking around free, taking a shower by herself, and you're sitting where you are.
Yeah, I guarantee her food's probably a lot better than mine.
Oh, I guarantee there's a lot of stuff that's better than yours.
Again, you hear the animosity of her, you know, well, Jen's over here, and a lot of people feel the same way, that she should be right where he's at, right? Yeah, but you can hear the mother like, well, she did this, you know, she should be blah, 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 blah. And again, I mean, there is some accountability there that once we get all the information out, but even just little snippets of interviews and stuff that I've seen, like the one cop who was like, you know, asking her about Jen sending Madeline to go to bed with him. And she stalled, and the cop's like, girl, we've gone through your phone, we know. And she's like, well, I was just trying to figure out how many times we did that or whatever. And there seems to be a baseline for that house that to them was normal. And to them, I mean, Jen and what's his name, Stefan. And I think Madeline was a victim of both of them. But there is this level of normalcy that was not the norm, like not an appropriate level of the normal, obviously, at all.
Well, how about giving up the chivalrous part and lay some truthisms on?
What's that?
I said, quit being so chivalrous and protective of, start laying some truth bombs on her.
You know,
There's truth bombs there.
you know, maybe none is groundbreaking or bombastic as, you know, you might hope for, but there are some truths there, some ugly truths and some not so pretty truths, but you know, I guess I reacted to everything the way I did because I wanted to shield her. I wanted to keep her from getting any blowback from him, but
You shouldn't have.
Now, interesting that, again, multiple times we'll hear the parents and his mom coming up with like a plethora of excuses, like, there's some truth bombs, you need to drop these truth bombs. And he's like, it's nothing as fantastical or like bombastic as you would think. And I think that's the thing. I think at the end of the day, he has guilty conscience. I think that comes through. I think he knows that. And I think that while we're going to learn that there's some like really messed up stuff in the house, when it comes to accountability of like who actually did this to her in her final moments, and then obviously we've seen the evidence of what he's been doing leading up to it, like that physical act, I feel like that's going to fall completely on him. Now, culpability wise, yes, Jen's not going to look too great, right? Obviously, we already know she sent Madeline up there to go to bed with him. I mean, these things like this. But I think what he does, where he's steering his mom away from these major, what he calls conspiracy theories, is because he knows what the evidence is for the most part, and he knows it's not pointing to some massive thing that Jen was, pulling the strings on or something like that. It's like going to all essentially come back to him. I guess the confusing part is like whatever story he's concocted along the way, it's almost like, well, you seem to be, meaning him, he seems to be making it up and flipping back and forth on a little bit. And I'm just like, well, what, I guess you would have to when you're lying to this degree, though.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Stefan, I can't help but get the feeling that none of this that was on the phone was a surprise to you.
She was aware that I had certain feelings towards me.
Yeah. Well, then why would she send her in there to sleep with you?
She used to joke about it, call it an electrocomplex. Used to joke and say, you better not leave me for my daughter when she's older, things like that. Laugh about it, and they used to both ogle over me and comment on me and talk about me together and giggle and talk about how nice I looked, and it was not an appropriate situation.
No, it wasn't.
And, I always had an issue with boundaries. She never respected any boundaries that I tried to set. We got in arguments on more than one occasion about the sleeping arrangements, so I, would beg her, please make her go sleep in her own room, and she said, well, no, it's easier this way for me to wake her up when she's near me, and it's like we didn't have any privacy, and just didn't have any space to ourselves. And she would suggest, well, maybe you should go sleep in bed instead. And it's like, it's like a twin bed, and I'm 6+ feet, and no. Why would I want to do that instead of sleeping in our king size bed? I should have broken up with her a long time ago and just distanced myself.
Oh hell yeah! Oh hell yeah!
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, it seems to be my superpower. Useless superpower. Captain Hindsight.
There's so much in that one little thing there. So, I mean, it's like they're all, and I'm not trying to say that that Jen doesn't have some form of culpability or whatever, but it's like they're all definitely like putting let's fixate on her. Now, you heard the mom. I don't think the things on the phone would have surprised her. I'm so curious to know how he has explain that part away to his parents, or if it's more, to me this is the vibe that I get, where he's like almost like this, and again these are my words, my interpretation, where he's almost like this. He's like, yeah, it was not an appropriate situation, but it is what it is, and that happened, and we did the things on the phone, and it's just I shouldn't have done it, but we were in love. And I think that that's almost, at least in his world, what he thinks and how he's whatever, because you heard where he went into, they would sit there and ogle over me and do this and do that, and I'm just like, are you interpreting it that way? Because I think that, I wasn't there, but I feel like the lens that he is interpreting things through is vastly different than what it was. Okay, now obviously we've already heard these things about Jim making the comments about like, you better not run off with her and blah 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 blah. No, I think that Jen probably knew way more that was going on. I think she basically, and again this is just my opinion, it's not fact, she's not been charged with this, but I think that she probably knew a lot of this was going on and just kind of turned a blind eye to it. And I think she may act like, oh my God, I didn't know. know or whatever, how would you not know? Now, maybe she didn't know the intricate details, but just in general of even sending your daughter to sleep in the same bed with this man, just that alone. And she'll say at one time, I forget one interview, I mean, I'm just talking off the cuff here. Yeah, I thought he loved her like I didn't care for her. And, I thought this at one point, and then that point. She just sounds like so unsure of herself and so many things where it's like, yeah, no, this was never going to end well, period.
And I hope that you guys...
So the murder charge aside, I mean, you're pretty much fucked on the other side.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to confirm or deny anything one way or the other. I'm trying to hold on to hope as best as I can and see how the cards fall out here.
Yeah.
So the dad knows what time it is. I mean, you heard him say, you're effed on the other stuff. Like, you can't, like I said, you can't get out of that. So psychologically, it's interesting to see then, like, there's that evidence, you can't get out of it. You have to account for it, period. So what did you tell your parents, right? What did you tell them? And again, I just feel like he's kind of like bringing everybody into the mix.
Okay, so you got the news then that they filed this morning to seek the death penalty.
Yeah.
How are you guys holding up?
Well, we're just waiting for this to play out. So, Debbie, your mother said that you were officially charged with murder. I didn't know about seeking the death penalty. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, well, it was always a possibility. And the level they charge me at, obviously, if they seek it, there's a good chance that they can get it. So at 10 o'clock this morning, they officially filed for intent to seek death.
Well, it won't happen for a long time, according to your attorney, if at all. And from what we heard, your judge does not like the death penalty. He thinks it's too lenient, and he would rather have you in jail for the rest of your freaking life.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
I hate to say it, but I'd rather have you on death row because you're in more seclusion and you're not really with the bulk of the population of the people.
Well, I hate to say it, but I'd rather be on death row too because I agree with him. It's a much easier way out.
I mean, and honestly, I would want to be on death row. I'd be like, exhaust all my stuff, go on, get old Sparky fired up, right? So, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I can see with the judge, I tend to go in that direction too, where I'm like, death row is like an easy way out now, even though it takes decades to get there, if it happens at all. Because especially for someone like in his situation, and it just really depends on what death row looks like. Obviously, going, to execution route would be the easy way out as opposed to being in prison for the rest of your life. But in like these situations, I think that being in prison the rest of your life is a stiffer punishment because you already know it's not going to be an easy time, easy stay for him.
Our understanding and impression is that you didn't do this, so why do you feel at peace and serenity with it?
I don't know. I guess whatever happens, I don't know.
No, I mean, are you going to be accepted? Going to be the fall guy for this? Is that the deal?
Well, I think between that and the prospect of spending the rest of my natural life in a very miserable place before I eventually die alone with no one to care about me or give a shit that I've passed on, I don't know. I think...
Well, I think whoever's involved in this needs to have justice served on them. I mean, if you're not part of this, then let's get that cleared up. I mean, it's not for you, but for the family.
I'm pretty positive that this was all an accident.
Okay, so right there you hear, our understanding is you didn't do this, so if you didn't do it, why are you so at peace with this and that and blah, 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 and the people that are involved in this and that, so you can piece together the story he's telling them, right? And you can start to get this vibe of like, okay, there's wiggle room with the unaliving charge, right? There's not with the other. There's tons of evidence. Here, there's like a little bit of wiggle room, meaning in his world, I think he's like, no, there are no witnesses and no video cameras or anything like that for this amount of time in the house. So I can say I was walking around the house and came back and found her. Like no one can say otherwise, right? But again, it's, coincidence. I think not.
I'm not sure that any one person is to blame. Maybe no one's to blame, or maybe everyone's to blame a little bit. I'm not sure, but honestly, there's no grand conspiracy here to hurt her.
Were you awake when sent her into the room with you?
Yeah.
And she was fine when she came into your room? What time at night was that?
Maybe 11-ish or so, I'm not sure.
Okay, so she was fine, so what happens between 11 and whenever you found her?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, when you say you were out of the room, for what length of time were you out of the room?
I don't know.
15 minutes?
No. I left the room a couple times. The first time I left to go to the bathroom, and the second time I was out of the room for maybe a couple hours or so, maybe more. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, that was plenty of time for the one-armed man to do it.
Well, without getting into too much detail, she was acting kind of weird before she went to sleep, so I don't know what was going on there.
You can see how he's figured out his little alibi or whatever. And you heard him say, I don't think there's some grand conspiracy for people to hurt her and blah, 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 blah. I just feel like he's going with the route of she OD'd or something or died and he found her. Now, and I feel like the parents are going to kind of jump at any little thing they can because, of course, you would rather believe that than my kid not only did the things that were on camera, but he also killed this little girl, right? I mean, come on, nobody wants to admit that.
Acting weird, like having difficulty?
Just strange behavior, acting loopy, things like that. So I'm not sure.
Have you been drugged?
I honestly can't get into too many details just because I don't want to hurt my case, but I have some suspicions in that regard. Whether it was given to her by anyone or whether she helped herself, there are reasons to believe she may have done that as well.
But
I can't.
okay.
Obviously can't get into too much detail because
No,
I know. The case, and my attorney will tear my throat out with her bare teeth if I flap my lips too much.
It's always very convenient, right? It makes me wonder if he drugged her and if that had something to do with it, because remember there's some kind of broken thing that suggests strangulation. So I wonder if that's part of it, because why would you say that, right? It's like he's trying to come up with an excuse. Like if he knows what happened and he has to come up with an excuse like, well, they're going to find these drugs in her system and then there's going to be this and there's going to be that. So I'll say she was acting loopy and then and then I left for 2 hours and it came back. So maybe that would explain the drugs and then somebody came in the room and strangled her. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to come up with all the different things here because I feel like that's what he's doing, because it doesn't make sense. None of this stuff makes sense, all the way from the fact that the mom sends her to sleep in his room down to him trying to say he found her dead and then proceeded to do what he did after that. None of it makes sense.
I told them, I said, you're still my son and I don't hate you, and I'm, I do not believe, in my heart, I do not believe that you killed that child. You loved her too much and she loved you, and I just don't think I don't think it happened that way. So, if it was an accident.
We had a lot of wonderful plans for the week and we were all looking forward to it, and we were all very happy to be reunited. It had been months since we'd all seen each other, and there's no reason that I would have given all of that up for literally no reason to hurt her and trade it all in for this.
No, there isn't. But there's jealousy on the other side too. I mean, if she told you, I hope you don't leave me for my daughter, that tells me that she was thinking about that for a while.
Well, it was said half jokingly, but, you know.
So again, I feel like the mom's thing would have been better suited if you think of it in these terms. I don't want to believe. I don't want to believe you would have done this, right? Because she's rejecting that reality. And again, take anything you feel about them, that whatever. Coming to the realization that your child did something like this to another human being has got to be like a major whoa. And many layers being pulled off of this onion to get to the center of it of oh my gosh, this really happened, right? Again, it hasn't gone to trial, so there's that. So then you heard her say that, and you're like, well, there's jealousy there, and you know, with Jen or whatever. I mean, Jen is the focal point. It's like they're all using her as the scapegoat to put their aggression towards or whatever. Because what's the other option? You put it towards Stefan. Obviously, they're going to continue their relationship, meaning the parents with him. So it's like they have to figure out a way to put this together and make it work to move forward. How do you move forward in life for this big elephant that will always be in the room with us? What do we do with that? Do we talk about it from time to time? Do we always ignore it? If we ignore it long enough, will it no longer be there? How do you move on?
I really do.
You know, as many near-death experiences as has, and as many times as God has delivered me from the jaws of death, I can't believe that He would do all of that just for me to end here.
Well, I can't believe that He put those thoughts and desires in you either. But something happened.
I can't confirm or deny anything, obviously. I don't want to do any damage to here, but it's a lot more messy and complicated than everyone would like it to be.
Well, I kind of figured that.
It would be a lot more simple and a lot more easy if I really was just a horrible monster, but...
So you hear the mom, like, to me, they've resigned themselves to he is guilty of the things on the phone, period. You heard her say, like, I don't know why God would put those ideas in your head. He quickly comes, well, I mean, I don't want to confirm or deny anything. Yeah, because it's almost like, Mom, shut up. Like, you're saying I'm guilty, you know what I mean? And that part then followed up with, it would be easy if I was just a monster, but it's way more complicated. This is where I think he's going to go with the route of trying to almost be like a very inappropriate situation was created. It takes two to tango, essentially. I feel like that's what he's going to go with. Even if he's like, well, Jim was doing this, Madeline was coming to my room, blah, 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 and, I couldn't help myself, whatever excuse he's come up with. Because somehow he's going to have to arrive at the excuse for the things on the phone. Now, obviously, we know there is no excuse for that, right? But in his world, he's trying and having to explain it away, at minimum, to the people that he knows.
But, it's like, I wouldn't waste too much energy having any sort of grudge or hurt feelings against her. She's suffering too in her own way, so.
Not as much as you are, sweetheart.
Well, she lost her daughter.
Yeah?
Her whole world was turned upside down too.
And you lost, a wonderful person that you love too.
Yeah, but everyone's world got turned upside down by this. No one is having a good time here.
Again, it's like the mom does not want to give any culpability to him for playing a part in this. I mean, all the way down to this, where he's defending Jen. She lost her daughter too. Well, you lost someone too. Yeah. We've seen, or haven't seen it, but I can't wrap my mind around that because I'm just like, we know that the evidence is on the phone. So it's like, I wouldn't even say like, oh, you lost a child, like you lost a victim. She was already his victim, whether you say he's guilty of, taking her life or not, right? She's already exploited by him. So it already is really bad. It already is really inappropriate. But again, it's like they've all used Jen as the scapegoat. Of course, I don't expect anyone on the phone to give him a hard time because of, he's waiting trial and all this stuff. I get that. So those are the clips that I have picked out from this, okay? Again, I've had enough of Stephan Sterns for the day, right? This has been a little bit of a longer video. So again, overall, just from based on these, I definitely think that he has disassociated himself with any culpability in the actual unaliving of Madeline. He's being forced to admit to, or at least go along with in some fashion with the things on his phone, and he's going to come up with some excuse for that. And I think that he's going to pull Jen in, and he's going to pull this dynamic of an inappropriate relationship that he was kind of coerced into. And he might be pulling in roommates and stuff like this, because obviously too, he's talking about, she was acting a little bit weird when she came to bed, and she was a little bit loopy, and I went downstairs for 2 hours and came back and she's cold to the touch. So he's got multiple things going on. And again, we'll find out very quickly if this gets to trial and we hear the opening statement what their excuse is, because then I think our mouths are going to hit the floor in the way of like, whoa, that is a stretch, right? Because it is what it is. So anyways, let me know what you think down in the comment section. I do appreciate it. If you're still watching, I also appreciate that. If you could drop some little sofas off for myself, for Rosco and Spirit, and for Bill and Luke, as well as the rest of the Sofa Squad. We need a place to sit and talk about this and all the other cases we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we all meet down in the comment section to do just that, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.